Hey there, everybody. I'm the Dungeon Coach. I'm here to coach you guys up on some adventure creation, dungeon creation, things for your adventures and campaigns that you're running for any tabletop roleplay game system. What story you want to tell, how you get it across. You're going to know what system you're using, not just DC-20. That's tons of videos on that. This is creation. I've been creating a lot for my homebrew custom campaign in the custom world setting in this new game that I'm creating. And I want to show you guys a new system that I've took inspiration from all over the internet and all over the experience that I have of running these things to try and systemize it in a way that really helps bust through writer's block and like, well, how am I going to do this? What do I do? And have a step-by-step, three-step system to be able to create a template for you that I have right here as well, to be able to make your own in minutes, at least get the outline for it, and then you can build it out and expand on it from there. So I'm going to show it to you right here. This is the adventure template that I've created. Equip props and shout out to Zipperon Disney. I watched him do something similar and have like a similar process that I've now taken and ran with, made my own, and added a whole bunch of pieces to, and turned it into a template. And as a side note, if you are interested in this template, I do have this available to all patrons. I have a ton of different patron templates on. This is Notion, by the way. I know there's going to be a lot of questions in the comments. This is Notion as far as the app that's being used. And I also, for the first week that this video is live, I'm going to have this template right here for free down in the description. And then after that 1 week, thanks for people jumping on the video, showing it some love. And depending on how well these videos do, I can do more of these along with free templates and stuff. But if it's past that 1 week time window, then it's going to be available on Patreon like it always is, with a ton of Game Master binders, campaign binders, and lots of other stuff on there. So anyway, let's go through this template. Here is the process of how to create a dungeon, an adventure. You can scan this out as big or as small as you want it to be, but really this is designed for creating an adventure to send your players on. You know there's some sort of story and plot points that you want them to go through, and you want to tell a story and advance the plot forward, and you also want to be able to run it off in a cool, fun way, but how do you do each of those pieces? So here is the process. Step one is brainstorming the plot progression. So I have some brainstorm questions here in this little drop down that you can ask yourself. We're going to go through these and ask ourselves this question as well to kind of walk us through the mind process of building out these plot progression points. And what this is, I'm going to close this for right now. What these plot progression points are things we're going to type in here of what the heck is the point of them going on this adventure. They shouldn't just be, is it, unless you're really wanting to make a random side quest that has no reason. And if you want to do that, or if you're building a one shot, that's also totally fine. You can use this template to create a one shot as well. These plot progression points are what things are they going to encounter. If you're going into a cave, you're thinking about this is a dark, scary place. There's waters going through. There's a river rapids running through it. If they're going through a forest, there's a section of mushrooms that has some strange pollen that goes in the air. Whatever. This is the story beats. This is the plot progression points. The pieces of what things are they going to do. This is the what. And then step two is the how of how are you going to get across this mushroom forest? How are you going to get across the feeling of being in a cave, the feeling of being in an Egyptian pyramid temple type situation. So here's the brainstorm plot points here. What are the adjectives? Think of the words and things that you're trying to say. So we're actually going to build this out. I'm going to pull this up on my side screen over here, and I'm going to have the same brainstorm points that we're going to put here. So how you would use this template is you click this generate plot button, right? And it just puts out a bunch of little green bullet points for you to be able to type in. You can delete them if you want, but I'm going to just type in some general plot points from these little brainstorm points that we have going on over here. So I'll even pull them. I'll pull them up on the screen here so you can see them, and then I'll type over here just so we're all on the same page. But what are adjectives of what we're going into? In fact, for the sake of this, I did this in a live stream that I will link down in the description as well. But what are things that we're doing here? I did not brainstorm this in the live stream. I already did this. So the example here, and you would be able to answer this for your own dungeon. But if I want them to go to some sort of hidden desert Egyptian temple type situation, that's what we're going to go with, in the middle of the desert. So I'm thinking adjectives. Hot sand is one of the things I'm going to say. That's as general and vague as you want to get with this whole thing. What do I want to make them feel? So whenever they're going to the place, I want them to feel, hot sand for sure. And then I want to feel some sort of puzzle, some sort of depth, some sort of hieroglyphics. I don't know how to spell that, but we're gonna rock it out. What else is going to be in there? Some sort of scarab beetle situation. There's going to be some scarab beetle monsters they're going to have to fight, right? And I would say they're going to be small ones, and there's going to be large scarab beetles, right? Maybe that's the type of protectors of this little area. And in fact, speaking of a protector, I think it'd be cool to meet some sort of sphinx type character that's like maybe barring off their entry from something, and they're trying to go get an item of some kind. Let's say that's what and I'll even say that obtain the staff, right? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. General plot points. Why are they going in here? We kind of accidentally just answered that with obtain the staff. What things are blocking their way, which actually let's actually focus on these questions here. What things would progress the plot forward? In the sake of your campaign, why are they going here, right? Why are they specifically going to this temple, and what plot progression points? Maybe inside here, the staff that they're getting is going to protect some sort of disease that's spreading in the world, or whatever's going on in your specific campaign. So add in that extra pieces too, as far as why they're here. Next is what new NPCs or creatures might they meet here? We already threw in the scarab situation, but what if we also have some sort of injured sage? There's some sort of magical person that's now trapped or injured in this situation. Maybe the beetle people attack them and they're hiding off to the side, and there's a nice NPC, or maybe they're not nice. That's for you to decide. What NPCs are they going to meet here? Cool. What overall goal of the PCs? Why are they going here? This is again what we referenced with the staff that we have. Or maybe they need to talk to the Sphinx and get some information from the Sphinx. This is when you're writing out these plot progression points. And if you can't see it right here, this is me writing them down all right here, right? So then, how does the adventure end? How do they escape? So now that we've answered all of these questions, another little thing here just to help your brainstorm in all of this that I've just been shooting off the top of the head is think of these pillars. Think of combining the 3 pillars together in different ways, where you have combat and social, like a tense social conflict. It doesn't mean fighting. It just maybe means arguing or disagreeing or trying to convince somebody of something. Combat and exploration is some sort of dangerous exploration. Maybe they have to traverse through something that's falling. A cave-in. I'm going to add that in here. A cave-in. Oh my gosh, right? And then social exploration would be, doesn't necessarily have to be social in the fact of talking through things, but maybe it's just discovering or finding out information, or maybe finding an NPC, and it can be social in that way as well. But now that I have all these brainstorm spots here, we have all of this. And also in general, I like for things to be color coded, so that's why I have all these things green. And if you click this button, it does generate green little bullet points for you, but you can do what you want for that. So now this is our plot points. That is step 1 done. Step 2, match up these plot points with the scenario types. And what do I mean by scenario types? So I'm going to click this button to generate the scenario types. In my opinion, and to try and streamline it, you can get more specific with these. You can combine these in some interesting ways, but this is a scenario list of how I would, or different ways you can run off the game, right? You know what you want to do. You know whether you want those beetles protecting things. There's a sphinx. There's a mysterious sage NPC. There's a cave-in. But how am I going to run it off? We already figured out the what do I want them to do? What is happening here? But now, how am I going to mechanically run it off? How am I going to run it as the game master? Do I want it to be a combat? These three bullet points right here are combats. Small combat, medium combat, large combat. How big of a deal do you want this to be? Is it a little skirmish that you want to see these little beetle things and they're like, oh, there's a bunch of small little beetles. Do you want to run it as a combat? It's probably a small combat. You're probably not going to have a large boss encounter against a bunch of tiny little beetles, right? Maybe there's one large massive scarab. Maybe the Sphinx is a hostile enemy, and that's kind of where you're thinking here. So these are combat, small, medium, large, because in general, I don't like to have like, oh, every single combat in this place is all large combats. I like to kind of vary it up a little bit as well. So there's that. And then skill challenges. This, I could do individual videos on each of these, and I have done that before, but combat skill challenge, exploration skill challenge, and social skill challenge. There will be future videos coming up for that, so stay tuned for that. And if you want to see those, let me know in the comments. I can do those sooner rather than later. But skill challenges in general is, I've done plenty of videos on the channel here, and a core system in DC20 is skill challenges, where everyone gets one round to go around the table and say one check that they're going to be making towards this challenge that you're putting in front of them. The challenge could be social in that a bunch of Sphinx guardians come in and they need to talk to you. Why are you here? Why should we not kill you now? And they have to visually, socially talk their way out of it, right? And that's a social skill challenge. And there's a certain amount of success points they need to get, and they each make a check against the DC to see if you get the idea, right? So how do I want to run this off, right? How am I going to mechanically run this off? Maybe it's a skill challenge. There's 3 different versions there. Then you have your classic trap, puzzle, and riddle. Those are, stereotypical. Riddles are going to be more rare, I would say, and I almost wanted to lump the riddle in with the puzzle and stuff, because traps are different than puzzles and riddles, but in a lot of ways you can have a trap that's kind of like a puzzle, and there's some gray areas there to be able to kind of puzzle piece around this thing that we're about to do here. And then exploration, hurdle. Exploration, I see the game in any TTRPG, at least with 5th edition being my main background, and then now DC 20, I see 3 modes of the game. There is exploration, which is the general default mode of the game. We're walking around, the players are saying what they do. I might make them make a check for it, whatever. It's all open game. There's not turns or anything like that. There's not like one round. It's just that is the exploration mode of the game. Then there's combat, which is obvious, and there's rounds of combat. You roll for initiative, all those things. You know how this works. I also think there's a 3rd mode of the game, which is skill challenge, right? And that's where it's a more structured version. It's not combat all the way, where there's rounds of combat and you have abilities and you use things and there's damage and all this kind of stuff. Skill challenge is 1 round. Everyone's making a check that represents a bigger picture, represents a cinematic story, a chase scene, running away from something, some sort of big combat where you're fighting things off of a hill that you're standing on top of that's not round by round by round, second by second by second, right? So exploration hurdle is literally there's a bridge. There's like a sketchy bridge that you have to get across. There's a wall that you have to climb. There's a river you have to cross. It's just some sort of exploration hurdle, and you don't want to run it off like a skill challenge or have there be a combat where you're fighting things along the river or something. It's just an exploration hurdle. That's one version. Social hurdle is some sort of interaction socially where you are being stopped. Maybe this is the Sphinx and there's a social hurdle of the Sphinx being there, and you cannot pass unless you talk to it in some way. And maybe if you talk to it nice enough, it lets you by. And maybe if you don't, it makes you go to the temple of this and that and go destroy the whatever, right? And you could branch it off from there as much as you want. And then there's a social interaction / NPC introduction of maybe this is where that NPC you meet. The NPC that you meet that's kind of helpful, they're not a hurdle that's stopping you. It's just adding in social dynamics of sort of role play, some sort of talking, social interaction, all that kind of stuff, right? So these are your lists. Now, step 2, I just broke down what each of these things are, but now when you go to step 2, you are looking at these pieces and where are you wanting to put them here, right? Because what you don't want to do is run off the same thing every way. It would not be a fun dungeon to be like, okay, so every combat's going to be a combat skill challenge. Every time you talk to somebody is a social skill challenge, and every time you try and traverse over something is an exploration skill challenge. And the entire dungeon is just a mega skill challenge. That's one-dimensional and lame. You got to spice it up and vary it up. And that's also what this system naturally helps you do with this template that I'm showing you here. So here's all the methodologies right here. I just broke them all down for you. And here's the things we talked about. Please ignore my spelling. I'm sorry. So we got hot sand. This is going to be something on the way there. I would also recommend whenever you're doing this, don't force yourself to answer these questions right away. If it doesn't pop up to you and be like, oh, you know what? That could be... I'm just going to leave the hot sand alone for right now. Hieroglyphics, that's going to be, sounds like a puzzle situation. So I'm going to grab this. If you don't know how Notion works, you can grab these things and move them around, right? I'm going to move this thing down here. And I think hieroglyphics is for sure going to be a puzzle. Like, dear good. I mean, come on. It's a hieroglyph. I want that to be a puzzle in here. Scarab, beetle, small. Ooh, you know what? Here's one thing I'm going to show. In the live stream I did, I put this here in combat skill challenge, right? I put it in here in the combat skill challenge because it made sense. I just went, oh, you're going to fight a bunch of little beetles and you do a combat skill challenge. Everybody describes how they're going to fight the beetles. Everybody makes a check. You see how the fight goes. Maybe they take damage. Maybe they don't. You get the idea. But I'll also link that video in the description of how a combat skill challenge, how that works. And you can see kind of where I'm talking about here. So I'm going to do something different here with these small beetles. I'm going to have this be a small combat. And one thing I like to do with small combats as a game master is showcase and preview mechanics, right? It's a lot more punishing and compared to video games where you can fight a boss and then die and fight a boss and over and over again and keep trying over and over. You can't really do that in D&D. So one way I do this is I have a small combat where you see a certain type of creature and it showcases a certain type of mechanic they have. Maybe they explode and burst whenever you get them down. Maybe they have an interaction of a combo between the two of the beetles, where one makes a noise and then the other one can do something, or they have a chain between them, or there's whatever's going on, right? You showcase and give a preview of a mechanic, a combat mechanic. So that's what I'm going to do here with these beetles, which then instantly says these large scarab beetles, I'm going to have that be the medium combat. Oh, nice. Okay, there's this scarab beetle guardians that they have to fight against. Okay, cool. I'm really seeing where this thing, I just made this up out of the top of my head. This sounds fun. Like, I want to throw this into something. I purely made this up with the desert temple situation, desert pyramid, right? So the Sphinx, what are we going to do with the Sphinx? This is interesting here because we have options. We could have the combat with a Sphinx be a large one. And this is also what I love about this methodology is with this template is I can think about this. What would this look like? What would this look like? What would this? What about this? What about this? And you can see the idea of like what excites you the most of where you would put it. Is the Sphinx the big final boss of this thing? I don't know. I don't think so. I think I like it more as a social hurdle. So I think that would be really cool. Trap doesn't make a lot of sense. We already have a puzzle. Riddle might make sense. That might be a cool place to put a riddle. The Sphinx gives a riddle. But I honestly think it would be even cooler, like I showcased, about having it be a social hurdle. The Sphinx, maybe you need to prove yourself worthy, or you prove yourself smart enough, or you need to prove yourself strong, smart, and charismatic enough, and the attributes in the game. And each of the 4 players has to decide like who's going to showcase agility, who's going to showcase strength, who's going to showcase smarts, and how are they going to do that. Really interesting social puzzle for the Sphinx to throw at them. I love it. So then we keep going. We got obtain the staff. Ooh, that's an interesting one. That's like the goal of the whole thing, right? I'm going to hold off on that one for a second. Injured sage. Oh, that's instantly going to be the social interaction that they have where they find this sage person. Done, right? So they're going to meet this NPC and they're helpful or not. Maybe they're helpful. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're the Sphinx in disguise and they are a projection of the Sphinx that's testing them to see if they truly are good or bad, right? See if they'll help this person. And if they do help them, then they'll let them through, right? Interesting. I'm just throwing stuff out there. And then there's a cave-in. That's interesting. So the cave-in is going to come down here. I think the cave-in is going to be a skill challenge, right? Exploration hurdle could be no. We're going to have the cave-in be an exploration skill challenge, right? So this is something where the cave's falling and they have to get out in some way. Everybody's making one check. What are you doing, right? I think that'd be cool to have that be a little cave-in right there, right? And then what else we got? We have hot sand and we have obtain the staff. So for hot sand, I want of the feeling of this hot sand. This could be some sort of traveling as they're on their way there. But as I'm looking through here, I'm able to narrow down. Now I could do things like I could double down and I could say this is also an exploration skill challenge, but this is giving yourself visual feedback of I might be overdoing it there. That might be a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want that to be an exploration skill challenge. So I could easily have that be an exploration hurdle. So now how I build out this hot sand situation is maybe it's not just hot sand. Maybe there's now a mirage, right? And there's a mirage. They have to try and be able to see what's real and what's not. And people are kind of making checks as they go across this thing, possibly for quicksand, right? There's different little hurdles and things they're gonna have to walk and carefully move across and around. I describe a bunch of imagery of these mirages, and they have to kind of decide, wait a second, maybe make checks to see if they can discern if it's an illusion. Do they even think to know if they should check to see if it's an illusion, right? So I'll let them explore that. Instead of having it be a skill challenge where it's structured, everyone makes one thing, they get to explore and get their way, and maybe this is how they get to the temple in that way. So there's the exploration hurdle done. And now obtain the staff. Where is this staff? And then that's kind of a really cool thing. Where am I going to put this? Combat skill challenge, large skill challenge. Maybe this is a large combat. Maybe the large combat is obtaining the staff, and there's a staff in the middle of this room, and they have to fight off all these things. But maybe, and I'm going to try and showcase different variations here. Maybe I don't care about that as much. Maybe I already have enough combat. Maybe my group doesn't like combat as much, or maybe I could do this. I turn the large scarab combat into a large combat. Oh, now I can freely move this around, and I could have this be a social skill challenge, maybe connected to the Sphinx. They prove their worth and to see if they're worthy of the staff. It could be connected to the stage that they randomly find. Maybe that's the test, right? And Also, I'll even say this, I'm going to put the staff right here. Maybe you don't put the staff in a category at all. Maybe that is the reward and you don't have to mechanically get across how you're doing it. It's just the reward of the thing. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this in. I think it's interesting if this was I'm going to throw another curveball here, a combat skill challenge, right? And there are now something you have to fight off. There's a bunch of things you have to fight off, and this whole thing is the cinematic ending to fight this thing off. As things are crumbling down, you can really pile on a bunch of stuff for a big final skill challenge, and if they succeed, they get the staff. If not, then it's lost and buried forever. Who knows what you want to do with this? But now that I have this, I can go through here and delete and systematically delete everything that doesn't have anything paired up to it, right? So riddle, there's nothing. And now I have my pieces. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. And now step 3 is to flesh out each pairing, right? I go through here. I'm like, all right, this is a small combat. Now I can flesh out the combat with the beetles. But the cool part, as we're even seeing here in this video, I see the big picture of this temple. I see what the focal points are. I see what kind of things are going on. I know kind of where I'm wanting to have this mysterious sage be, what's going on with the Sphinx, what this hieroglyphic puzzle is. And now at least I have the picture. I have an adventure in front of me right now, and this is even, however long it's been in the video so far, is also, keep in mind, me explaining it. So if I were to just not say anything and just do this, it would be very simple for you to be able to have your adventure outline, we could say, to then be able to go in and flesh each of these pairings out. And that's going to be depending on how you're running the dungeon. I can do future videos on, I see 5 different ways to run off dungeons. In the link down in the description, I talk about an exploration skill challenge method of dungeon exploration, and I'll have more coming on that. But then the final little piece here that is in this template are the GM notes of travel. How are they getting to this location? The description of your arrival whenever they get there, the lore, any sort of relevant lore that's relevant to this specific information. Maybe the previous pharaoh had some sort of this, that, or maybe the previous people, they were under some sort of spell, and that's now affecting this area as well. Careful. GM notes. What are you, remind yourself why they're here, different things to remind yourself of, the goal of what things you want to make sure that they experience or see or find here that you don't want to let slip through the cracks, right? Different clues or hints and foreshadowing towards bigger picture things, possibly. Loot. What kind of loot and rewards? Where is all of this stuff? And I'll show you what I do here in a second with that. And NPCs. What NPCs do they meet along the way? So all of this culminates in that live stream of this. This is the, I just started, which is also another reward over on Patreon. I run games at my home games. I film my home games of DC20, and you can see this all be ran out. I post the videos over there on Patreon for all patrons. The Game Master rewards are some higher tiers, and all the different tiers have different amount of rewards for things. But this is also another thing that some patrons have access to, of this actual Dungeon Master binder for my actual campaign. It all just depends on how interested you are in all this stuff. But this is now what it looks like when it's done. This is the entire thing. A wax wall. This is the wax wall. Different things about a description of the wax wall, some complications. This is an exploration hurdle. I'm just simply describing a wall. Let's see how they climb up it. Done, right? We have a trap. There's a trap and there's a trigger and there's and what happens in different scenarios, what happens if you fail and all this stuff. All these things are now here, able to be ran out. There's some hobo squatters inside this cave, and I have their NPC cards all written in down here of what they're going on. There's some clues for this strange person, right? And they're all linked here. But the other cool thing, if we go up to the top, they're all linked here. So like I said, NPCs, all NPCs I have linked right here. And you can do this simply in Notion. You click the little 3 bubbles and it says link, copy to block. So I have all of the things linked here. So whenever these people are down here, I have these linked all up here as well. So I can find them as soon as I want to. At the very top, I can find them quickly, right? And if I want to loot, all of the loot throughout the dungeon, I have gone in. And let's say there's some loot down here. I know, let's see, one of the people, one of these combatants down here has an item on them. So I can go here and they have some black poison stuff. I can copy this. I can grab it. I can copy the block. I go back up here and you can paste the block. I'm just going to paste it randomly right here. Anywhere you want, paste and sync. There it is. And so now you have all things to move around and the whole thing's interactive and connected and stuff. So I'm going to undo that though, because We don't need that. But yeah, all the loot's right here. All the NPCs are right here. It's all ready to go. And then I can run off my dungeon in the way that I want with all the different little combats right here. I've also color coded my Notion to be red as combat, green as descriptive text, blue or secrets, orange or exploration traversal type skill challenge stuff. You get the idea. So I hope that this has helped you be able to get your adventure outline created and then flush it out further from there. And I have a bunch of other stuff and ideas and a bunch of different other tools and stuff that I'll be posting about. This is a different video, so let me know if you like it genuinely, like all that stuff. Anytime I do a different video like this, engaging with it in whatever way, as far as shares, comments, and likes, really does help me know to keep doing them or not. So until next time, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.